planning to have a trip, say with your wife, to Dubai, there might be business justification, just in case. Yeah, back to the talk. I stumbled across this one and I found it very interesting, and this is why I'm happy he's here. He made a long way to give some ideas on the spider backbends.
Okay, thanks very much, Ino, and thanks for having me. So you can tell I'm not feeling nervous because I'm the first speaker for the defense track, but I'll try to get through this as painlessly as possible. So today's talk is going to be about social engineering. Now, before all of you decide to get up and walk downstairs to the attack track, please note that I'm very sensitive about these things, and if you must walk out, wait till my back is turned, otherwise I might start crying or something like that, right? But so social engineering is actually a very important part of this presentation. You will see why as we go along, because of the nature of the BlackBerry device itself. Okay, so social engineering, as all of you are probably familiar with, is up there. It's the clever manipulation of the natural human tendency to trust. So as humans, we naturally feel like trusting the other person, and social engineering is a way in which you manipulate that person into either giving information that you require or into doing something that you want him to do. Now, I saw a TED talk recently by British journalist Misha Glenny, where he gave the technical term for social engineering as "there's one born every minute." So essentially this is true because this extends to "there's a sucker born every minute." So very important point. Now, as all of us in the IT security community know, social engineering is probably regarded as the hack that works every time, because no matter what kind of secure device that you have or secure device that you use, there's always a chance that you're going to get owned, right? You can have the most secure device, encryption, somebody comes up to you, your family with a gun, a knife, you're going to give him your password. Okay, so there are various stages, obviously, of social engineering, but it's important to keep in mind that this hack pretty much works every time. Okay, so I wanted to start off by telling you a little bit of a story, but when I did this story at Malaysia, everybody came up to me after that and said, "Dude, your story really sucked." So I'm not going to go into the full details of it. Just why are you looking at a picture of Singapore Airlines plane? It's because last year I lost my BlackBerry in Singapore airport. And I'm not obviously going into the details because people don't seem to like that story anymore. But just for the record, I did own, and I lost my BlackBerry in Singapore airport. And it just got me thinking that even though I'd replaced the phone in a matter of 2 days for $500-600, the data on my phone was actually something that mattered a lot to me at that point. Sure, I had a backup. Maybe it was about a week's worth of data that I lost. But these days, I mean, especially in the last year, towards the end of the last year, and obviously this year, mobile computing is getting a lot of importance. It's more prevalent. People tend to live their lives. Now, I live my life on my BlackBerry, and I'm effectively crippled because my data roaming doesn't work at this point, so I'm kind of feeling a bit weird, but I'm coping. But the whole point is people tend to do everything on their mobiles, and with this talk, I want to bring some importance towards some threats that you're going to experience or you're going to encounter using your mobile, and some things to think about, essentially. Okay, so as you've probably established, I'm a big fan of the BlackBerry device itself. I mainly like it because of a few features that I'll go over. It's got push email. Obviously, everyone knows that. Now, I don't know what kind of penetration BlackBerries have. Is it more on the individual side, or is it more corporates that it's in Germany? Corporate side, yeah. Yeah, because in Indonesia, I'm originally from Sri Lanka, but I live and work in Indonesia. In Indonesia, you'd find 16-year-old girls having BlackBerries. it's huge. People use it a lot for the messenger, the built-in BlackBerry messenger. And there's a lot of penetration for the individual down in Asia as well. I just wanted to get a feel of what it's like over here. Anyway, that's not really too much of a concern, but once it does start picking up, you should be aware of the threats that plague the BlackBerry. Okay, so push email, that's one thing I like about it. When my mail comes in, I get it like an SMS. I don't have to poll the mail server every 30 minutes. It's got a very nice keyboard, and once you get to know it, you can type pretty fast on it. Keys are good too. And more to the point of this talk are the granular security controls, transport level security, and the device encryption, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail. Okay, starting with granular controls. Now, the BlackBerry device comes with a lot of built-in capability to secure the device. Here I'm talking from an individual perspective, not of a BlackBerry connected to the enterprise network. One of those things which you can do is allow or deny access to programs. No, let me rephrase that. Allow or deny programs to access certain areas of your data. So if you have a set of applications that you want to prevent accessing, maybe your contacts, maybe your email, you can do that. It's built in. You don't have to do anything extra. Similarly, allowing an application to work with another application. So for example, if you had an application that wanted to access your phone application or maybe your email application, you can prevent it from doing so if you so wished. Lastly is the connectivity. So here, although I've said internet connectivity, it also applies to Bluetooth connectivity. So you can allow or deny permission for applications to access either the internet or any other sorts of connectivity. Now, again, this comes built in. You don't have to really buy any separate tools to do that. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why I tend to favor the BlackBerry more. Now, moving on to transport security. So normally when you access the internet on a BlackBerry, your traffic doesn't go directly to the web server itself. As a matter of fact, it takes this path where it goes through your service provider down to a server farm in RIM, the makers of BlackBerry. And it's the servers in those server farms, in that server farm that accesses the web server for you. Then it brings it back, reformats it to your screen, and sends it back to your BlackBerry. Now, if you notice, the circuit between your handheld and the RIM server farm is encrypted. This is a good thing because obviously anybody in between you and the server farm in RIM cannot see your requests that you're making or any of the data that you're going through. And this is applicable even to HTTP connections. So in that sense, I'm safe in the knowledge that the telecom doesn't know what I'm browsing or what I do in terms of accessing my BlackBerry. Now, I know the Canadians can probably see it if they so wished. I know there haven't been cases of them doing that, but I really don't mind the Canadians looking at my mail because, I mean, let's face it, when have you ever heard of a Canadian starting a war or a Canadian coming after you, right? So I'm okay with that for now. The third point is device encryption. Now, most people don't enable this, but you could if you wanted to. You can enable the device encryption on your BlackBerry so that your data effectively remains only on your device. If you try to move an encrypted micro SD card to another BlackBerry and read it, if encryption is enabled, you won't be able to do that. Similarly, if your phone is stolen and they try to take it apart at chip level and maybe read it that way, still no good because they won't be able to get past the encryption that is built in. So these are pretty much the reasons why I tend to favor the BlackBerry, and I mean, it goes to show that the BlackBerry is one of the most secure smartphones out there on the market today. I wanted to also maybe do a comparison with one of the more popular phones out there. So I picked the iPhone, and last year I did a search for vulnerabilities on each of the handhelds to do a comparison, and this is what I was able to come up with. So 2 vulnerabilities on the BlackBerry, and actually one of those vulnerabilities is not even a vulnerability, it's just the way the handheld handles alerts for certificates with null characters in the common name. So this is a bit old, the data. I'm sure this has gone up. The value for the iPhone has gone up because I think lately there was a German researcher who discovered a bug in the opening of an MP4 file. So you could have an MP4 file specially crafted, and if the iPhone opened it, you could take control of somebody's iPhone. Now, so this is another point to illustrate. I mean, I have nothing against the iPhone. I love the iPhone. I have one as well. But just to show you that the BlackBerry is pretty secure in comparison. Okay, so all right. So we've established the security part of it. Just to go back to that fact that people live their lives on their mobile phones. The most important thing you're going to find on somebody's phone is their data. One thing that you could attack a phone for is to actually own it and maybe try to build a mobile botnet with it. Maybe that's something I'll research in the future. But for now, what's most important is the user's personal information. If you're going to bring somebody down to his knees, I'd pretty much go after the phone, because it has not just maybe information that he uses on a daily basis in his corporate life, but also maybe his personal information, like, for example, personal pictures, maybe naughty pictures of his girl or boyfriend, private text messages, which maybe he shouldn't have been sending to other people. And then you can move on to the corporate side, where he has emails with contractual information. Maybe his secretary emailed him a contract with figures, passwords, etc. And of course, phone call logs, who he's been calling, and what time he's been making those calls, etc. So if I was an attacker, I mean, this is exactly what I'm going to go after, right? We'll leave the botnets alone for now. I'm just only going to go after his personal information. But to do that, there are a few problems, which, again, I covered earlier. You can't really hack the BlackBerry, right? Because there are only 2 vulnerabilities, and one of them is not really a vulnerability after all. So you can't really hack it. There are no useful vulnerabilities. We can't sniff the traffic because, as we all know, the transport level security will take care of that problem. So you can't really sniff the encrypted traffic. You could steal it, but then you're going to go to the point where you're going to actually confront the guy and point a gun, give me your phone. You could steal much better things by doing that. And also, it would kind of defeat the purpose, because you really don't want to make contact with your target beforehand, right? And also, if he has enabled device encryption, then even stealing it's not going to help. Okay, so how do we get the personal information out? It's chock full of these good, juicy bits of information, but as soon as it leaves the phone, it's encrypted, and when it's on the phone, it's encrypted. But there's one point on the phone when the data is in the clear, and that point is when the user is actually looking at his data. So if we can find a way to catch the data off that phone when he's looking at it, when it's in the clear, we can take a copy of that and send it to wherever we want, right? So we don't have to worry about the man in the middle. We don't have to worry about transport level security, vulnerabilities, anything. We just need to get something into his phone that will enable us to collect this data from the phone and send it somewhere else. So I'll explain how and give you some examples of how we can do that. But first, as I think everyone is aware, when you have an operating system or a language where you're going to develop something for a mobile platform, for example, the developer will give you a set of APIs. And the BlackBerry is no exception. There's a rich set of application programming interface methods available. And even though it's written in Java, you can go down to a pretty low level by using these APIs. And while these APIs are not really geared to help you spy on people, with a little bit of creativity, you can actually make use of these APIs and collect the information that you want. So I'll cover a few APIs and a few scenarios, and then maybe give you some demonstrations as well for those of you who are feeling brave enough to try the program that I have. So let's start with text messages. So imagine the scenario where you want to collect somebody's text messages, incoming and outgoing. You can easily do that by setting up what is known as a message listener. So this is just nothing but a method that will sit there and wait to get a notification saying either an SMS message came in or one went out. So once you set the listener, you then set a bit of code saying, okay, once a message comes in or goes out, just send me a copy to wherever I want, right? And how it works is, so you have your listener set up on the phone. Let's assume that we've already got our spyware on the phone. So when a message comes in, basically the listener will just take a copy of it, send it off to wherever, either to another SMS mailbox or to an email address, and then display the message on the user's phone. Now, this is all transparent. If you have your spyware set up, you don't have to, it's completely transparent. The user won't even notice a copy of the mail or the SMS going out, all right? So it's also very similar. You do a similar thing for email as well, where you set up a folder listener. I'll just cover that in a little bit. So the topic is bugs and kisses. The idea was I wrote bugs, which is the snooping part, and then kisses, which is the detection part. Now, I don't know how many of you feel brave enough to try it. I will tell you how to remove it at the end of this presentation, don't worry. I would demonstrate it myself, but sadly, like I said, my roaming is acting up, so I'm not going to do that right now. Is anybody willing to try? Because what I did was I set up a wall of geese, if you will. I think most of you know at DEF CON you have a wall of sheep where they collect people's email, usernames and passwords. So I set up something similar where whoever has bugs installed and when he sends and receives email, it'll pretty much come up on this. The message body won't come up, but who is sending it to, the direction, etc. will come up. This is what I did, some tests which I did yesterday and today. If nobody's willing to give it a shot, I'll just show it to you on the simulator. If you will just bear with me for 1 second. No problem. Okay, so this is the simulator that I used to develop on. Don't mind the weird email. So I'll just try to send an email to user@example.com. Oh my God, I'm presenting. Okay. Please work. All right, so send. So, I mean, this could be a scenario where somebody sent an email to, I don't know, let's just assume he sent it to somebody's friend or something like that. With a little luck, oh boy, it didn't work. Okay, maybe that's a problem with my... Yeah, well, anyway, the idea is it should show up there, right? Clearly it didn't, there's something wrong. But, I mean, at the end of the presentation, if you guys wish, come over, I can give you some additional, like individual, if you don't want to try, try it right now. Okay, let's move on. So this is one of the ways in which you can have the Trojan on your device, and with the help of listeners, you'll be able to basically harvest emails, SMS messages from anybody who you've infected, right? I don't know if people here have heard of a program called Phone Snoop. Anybody? No? Okay. After HITB in Malaysia, I released a program called Phone Snoop. It was supposed to be a proof of concept tool, and what it did was it allowed somebody to call in and remotely activate the microphone on the phone and listen into ambient noise around the phone. Now, I released it. It wasn't really stealthy or anything like that, but it caused a bit of a weird reception. Like US CERT and the Department of Homeland Security issued a whole bunch of warnings to all the users, and some of the people didn't really like that, and I got a little bit of flack for that. But typically what Phone Snoop does is, and what I'll demonstrate, is it sets up a listener, a phone listener. I think it's better if I just show it to you. So it sets up a phone listener, and it waits for a call from a specific number. And once it does receive that, it will send a signal to something called an event injector. Now, an event injector is cool in the fact that it acts almost as if a user is behind the phone. So you can simulate any key press on the BlackBerry by using an event injector. So what happens is when a call comes in, the phone listener says, okay, it's coming in from a number that I know. Let me send a signal to the event injector. Now, the event injector does one thing. First, it mutes the ring so that the phone doesn't ring. Then it answers the call, and then it switches on the speakerphone. So at that point, you have an open channel between whoever is calling and the victim, for example. So by doing this, you can call somebody at will and listen to the conversations going around, or the ambient noise in the room, for example. So again, I have a little video that I'll show you of Phone Snoop. Let me reset this. Okay. So this is actually an older version of Phone Snoop, but you get the general idea of how it'll work. So we first start off Phone Snoop, and at this point in time, there is only one trigger number. When I released it with the ability to change trigger numbers at will. So you can basically program any number that you want. So here on the simulator, what I'm doing is simulating a call from a specific number, number 31336. Here you see the call incoming. Nothing happens. It's like a regular phone call. So what we'll do now is make a call from the trigger number, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so the number I've designated is 31337. Of course, what else would I decide to use? And so in that instant, if you saw that, I'll back it up a little bit. Sorry. Okay, so you get an incoming call, it flashes for a quick second, and then it connects. So that's the event injector at work. It's already answered the call, it says connected. And then the last part was returning it to the home screen, so that when you look at the home screen, it looks like a regular screen. A user won't be too suspicious, so to speak. You'll see the upper right corner. I mean, people with BlackBerrys know that when there's data transfer, you'll see the upper right corner. You'll see the two arrows there, the send and receive arrows, but that's about all you'll see. Now, if we look at the simulation, you'll see the call is connected. And similarly, if you press on the send button, you'll see that the call has been connected now for almost 15 seconds. And the blue icon over there indicates that it's on speakerphone. Right? So this is available. Like if you guys want to download it, I'll give you the link and test it out. It's freely available. But this is again another area where I'm just doing this once again for you guys to take a look at. So create call. And the call comes in and it immediately switches to the home screen and it says it's connected. So this is another way in which you can maybe implant some spyware onto somebody's BlackBerry and use it to spy on them at will. Now, a variation to this, part 2, is you can also use the media player that's built in to the BlackBerry, the media package, and you can actually just have maybe a timed recording, say every 5 or 10 seconds. You can have you can switch the microphone on, collect the data, store it. Maybe in the night or at a specific time, you can just upload the captured audio files to a remote server or whatever. So that's another way of doing that. Okay, this is actually just a graphic of how that would be done. In this case, I've made use of a timer task, which is it's just an event that will run at a specific time every day. It would send a signal to the audio recorder to switch on the microphone, and then it would store the audio in the memory, and then we can get a look at it at a later time. Okay, the miracle of modern cell phones has given us things like cameras, GPSs, and using the BlackBerry API, you can make use of pretty much everything. So with the media control API, you can actually programmatically take snapshots from the built-in camera on the BlackBerry. So the idea is every half an hour, you take a few photographs to see maybe where your target or your victim is. But usually when I keep my phone, I just keep it flat on the desk. So if you take a picture every half an hour, it's not going to give you much, it's just a black screen. The idea that I had was to take a picture when a person receives a call. Because, I mean, when I receive a call, 90% of you will put it to your ear. I mean, the people who use Bluetooth won't. So here you have like an unrestricted view. So you put it to your ear. You talk like this, you have pretty much an unrestricted view of what's around you. And if anybody's like me, I walk around a lot. So the more I walk around, I'll be able to get like almost a 360-degree view that'll give me a good idea as to where a person is. So the idea is when a call comes in, start a timer to take pictures every 5 seconds and maybe store that. This can further be combined with the GPS API, and so you can combine the two and say when a call comes in, check his GPS coordinates and take a picture. So even if he's maybe indoors with no GPS coverage, you kind of get the feel of where he is, maybe near a mall or a shop, a specific shop, whatever. Right? So again, with the get qualified coordinates method, you can just collect a person's GPS location, his latitude and longitude, and you can track the user as well. Right? Another attack which I didn't actually write or have anything to do with, but I thought it might be wise to include it in this presentation, is something called blackjacking. This was done at a presentation in DEF CON some time ago by a group called Praetorian Global. So the idea here is on an enterprise network, you infect an enterprise user's phone with, I believe they wrote a tool called BB Proxy. And what BB Proxy does is it actually gives you a gateway into the enterprise network. So typically your enterprise network is all internal IPs. You can't access it from the outside. So with BB Proxy, what you do is it kind of installs like a gateway on the BlackBerry itself, and on the enterprise system, you're always connected to the server. So by exploiting this, you can effectively gain access to scan, say, the entire internal network from the outside just by going through an infected BlackBerry. So this is I think this was done in 2006, so it's fairly old, but it's also one of the things to keep in mind. And of course, you can move on to a few other hacks like stealing contact information. If you're feeling a bit mischievous, you can alter contact information, maybe switch numbers and names. So instead of calling your boss, you think you're calling your grandfather or something like that. You can change dates on the person's calendar if you just want to be mean. You can run up a victim's phone bill by having a timer task. Just call an international number every half an hour, something like that. And of course, you can do what the spam masters used to do when they found an SMTP port which was not protected. They would use it to spam people. You can use something similar by sending bulk SMSs. So these are some of the ways that you can actually hack a BlackBerry. Now, one thing I haven't told you, which is the most important part, is how to actually hack it, or how to actually put the stuff on there. So this brings us back again to the social engineering aspect, right? We know we can't really exploit it remotely. We can't send them a link and say, download this program and run it. Well, you could, depending on how gullible the person is. But one thing we can do is physically install it on the phone. So phone is lying there in a bar somewhere, you pick it up, just quickly download something from a website, and you've infected it. Or you could just go up to the guy and say, hey, look, I'm having a problem with my BlackBerry. Can I just quickly check something? And he gives it to you, you install it, and it's done. The next part is developing a game, which I think is too much work, actually, because I'm not that dedicated. So the simple alternative would be to develop maybe a bikini picture slideshow. I haven't been very discreet there. I said porn. So you put it up for free downloads, and people would just download it, right? The free bikini picture of the day or something. So then you have your slideshow on top, and then on the bottom you have this nastiness going on, collecting emails, SMSs, etc. So that is another way that you can do it. The third way is to send a WAP push message. Here you would pretend to be like you were someone in an official capacity. You could buy credits off a SMS gateway, for example. And you could tell them, look, please download this very important patch for continued use of your phone. This is typically like a phishing attack that you can do. And this was actually done in the Middle East, in Dubai, by a company called Etisalat. I worked in Dubai for 10 years, and I worked for them for 5 years. It's a great company, but sometimes they don't make the smartest decisions. So I had already left by the time this happened, so I didn't have anything bad to do with it. So what they did was they sent this is the exact message that they sent all their BlackBerry subscribers. Dear customer, always keen to provide you blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll send you a performance enhancement patch that you need to install on your device. And what happened when they installed this, when the users installed it was actually designed to sniff all outgoing emails. So how did it work? It was actually first hidden from view of the applications, and it started off pretty much asleep. So it wasn't doing anything until it received a start message from either via SMS or by BlackBerry Messenger from the sender called customer service. So then once it received the start message, it would just collect every single outgoing email and forward it to an internal, a server with an internal IP address, which obviously belonged to Etisalat. Now, I was fortunate in the fact that I was able to get my hands on the application, and I decompiled it. I also wrote a white paper on it previously. So I apologize for the way this looks, but it starts off initially by checking if it's visible. If it is, it will cloak itself. So it sets a flag to hide itself, and then it'll initialize and it'll hook the radio and the global events. So it essentially sets up a listener, listening for events that occur on the BlackBerry. And then it'll pretty much stay active. and every 5 seconds it'll check if a message is received. Now this was the first stupid thing that they did. Now I explained to you that you set up something called a message listener and then you forget it. You wait for a message to come to you. They didn't do that. They just kept polling it, right? So every 5 seconds they would check if there was a message coming in, and then they would process it if they received a message. And every hour they would send like a ping back to the server to say, I'm active on this phone, this is the IMEI number, this is the PIN number, and this is my version number. And then of course if it's interrupted, then it'll remove all the hooks and it'll stop working after that. But this part is what actually caused a lot of problems, because like I said, it was polling the message queue and it didn't have to do that. It just had to wait for a message to come. So the second problem was the source code was available. Kind of. When you deploy a BlackBerry application, you can do it in a COD file format. There's a specific format that you use, which is a COD file. These guys also included the jar file, which was very cool because the jar file is nothing but a big zip file with all the Java classes in it. And you get your hands on the Java classes, you can just easily decompile it, which is what I did. So that was their second mistake. The third mistake was a back-end server collapsed. So like after a day of deployment, the back-end server stopped responding. And because this was written so badly, the Trojan would keep trying the server, and when it didn't have a response, it would just keep trying. You know, it would just do a bunch of retries. So here you had like almost 100,000 people retrying constantly, and then it just brought the server down. And the effect on the customers was that they all complained that the BlackBerry slowed down. Some of them noticed that it was overheating, and it drained the battery. So like I can use my BlackBerry for about 2 days, moderate use. These guys had half an hour from full charge to dead phone, right? So lots of annoyed people. So the other thing was, what was weird is Etisalat themselves didn't write this program. It was written by a company called SS8, which is a company based out of the US. It specializes in lawful interception stuff. So they're the guys who you go to if, or governments will go to if they want to tap your phone, if they suspect you're being a terrorist or something like that. So, I mean, even these guys hadn't written it really properly. So how well hidden was this? So if you have the applications list, this is what it would look like on your BlackBerry, and that would be bugs. I can make it disappear just by running these 2 lines of code, 3 lines of code, no, 2 lines of code. So all I do is just set a flag hidden to true, and I can just make the thing disappear, but not fully disappear. It's still there in the modules, but for the average user, he's not going to find it on his applications list. So this is one of the things that they did. Okay. So we covered the hacks. We covered the ways of getting the hack onto the phone. We covered some of the bad stuff that other people did as well. So we enter kisses, which is the second part of my talk, or the second part of the name of my talk. So I wrote kisses again last October, I think. I released it just after my Hack in the Box presentation. It pretty much simplifies the search for Trojans of this nature. So it searches for hidden programs. It searches for hidden processes. I haven't really had time to work on version 2, which is going to be really great. That will definitely be out next week. For now, this link will give you the older version, but it's also available on BlackBerry App World if you want to check it out. So what Kisses does is it goes through your phone, it looks at all your processes, it looks for hidden programs and hidden processes, and it won't do anything about it. It'll just alert you saying these are the hidden processes on your phone or the hidden programs on your phone. Do you want to reveal them? It can reveal it if you want it to, but mostly it's like an information tool that'll tell you what's on. One other thing that it does is just to take a step back with all these hacks that I was showing you. These are not new. They've been around for a long time. Companies like FlexiSpy, MobileSpy, and NeoCall sell this sort of thing, claiming that I think FlexiSpy, the tagline is "Catch your cheating spouse," right? If you part with 300 euros, they'll give you a program that does exactly what I told you that can be done with the BlackBerry. So it'll snoop on emails, SMSs. FlexiSpy even has like a poor man's phone tapping where, say if somebody's on a call, it'll automatically patch you in on a conference call, so you can listen in on the conference call that's going on. So it's like you don't need to even be somebody from the government to tap the phone. You can just do it this way. So these guys have been around for a while, and they actually sell this stuff. So I didn't like the fact that people can spy on you. I'm kind of paranoid that way. So I wrote Kisses again. I took the individual signatures of these programs and I put it in Kisses. So if you have FlexiSpy or Mobile Spy or NeoCall, it is going to detect it and remove it. Similarly, I did it for Phone Snoop as well, because some people don't like Phone Snoop, even though I wrote it and I said, look, it's harmless. So I put Phone Snoop in there as well, so it removes Phone Snoop as well. Right. The new version that I'm writing will also do something called baseline analysis, which is like Tripwire. So it has I have a database of all known good configurations and signatures of the modules on a BlackBerry. So I'll just compare them and see if any of them have been tampered with, and it'll alert you if it has. Right. So to wrap things up quickly, the BlackBerry is a very secure device. I mean, I don't work for RIM. I wish I did, but I'm telling you now, it's a very secure device. The one problem is it's really complex for the average user to use. Like that screen is the permission screen. If you don't have at least some idea of what's going on, you're not going to really mess with that too much, right? Similarly, you get a thing called modules, which lists something close to 300 to 400 modules on the BlackBerry. So you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's just not the easiest thing in the world to do. So again, next week, I'll probably release a white paper that details a more friendly way of dealing with this. Now, I know it won't apply too much to the enterprise segment, because obviously you have your admins who know what they're doing, and they will hopefully control what good and bad can happen to you. But this would be mostly for the individual user, the users of BlackBerry Internet Service or BIS. Second, BlackBerry apps are not very well regulated. You can just buy a code signing key for $20, write your application, put it on a website, and tell someone to download it. You don't have to send it through something like the App Store to get it looked at. If you want to publish it on BlackBerry App World, you do. You have to submit your application. They'll take a look at it and then publish it. But for now, there's nothing between you and the spyware itself. So if I wanted to, I can just put it up on a website, which is what I have done, and just tell people to download it, right? So obviously, I think this is a given. Don't install random pieces of software. Again, limit the amount of software on your BlackBerry. It's not really the most cutting-edge gaming platform that's out there on the market. It has a lot of built-in tools that will help you with your productivity, but you don't need to load screensavers of dancing bears or the daily bikini slideshow or something like that. You should learn and set the default application permissions. This will help you greatly. Where you don't have an enterprise admin to protect you as an individual user, this is what's going to stand between you and spyware. So this is the paper I'm going to release. Hopefully it'll be more of a user-friendly format. Again, don't let others use your phone. If they do have to use your phone, make sure you see what they're doing on it. Don't leave your phone unattended. Always enable a device password, so even if your phone gets lost or stolen, you know that he's not going to be able to get into your phone. And the BlackBerry, after you enter your password 10 times incorrectly, it'll just wipe all the data off your phone anyway. Right? If you need to keep up to date, I usually post my findings to my blog. Alternatively, you can also follow me on Twitter, because whenever I post a blog, I just tweet about it as well. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Do we have any questions? Yes. Yes, of course. Of course.
Yeah, are there any questions? Good, that's what's good.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have a BlackBerry.
Yes. 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 So far there aren't. So the question was whether there are any rootkits on Blackberries. So far there aren't any rootkits as such. What you do get is these tools, these commercial spying tools like FlexiSpy, where you install the program and it's there, it's running, it's hidden. This is as close as you're going to come to a rootkit. You can't infect the BlackBerry the way you would do a PC, so you can't send, you can't take advantage of like a browser bug and introduce it without the user knowing. You always have to have user interaction to install so-called rootkits. So you either trick the user into installing it, or you install it yourself. So yes. Yes, but by default, the event injector permission is set to deny on the BlackBerry. So by default, you're not going to be able to use that unless you trick the user again into permitting this. Yeah. No, it's like the last vulnerability that was discovered was recent, but before that, I think there was a gap of about 4 or 5 years in the vulnerability discovery. The device is truly secure. It runs a customized JVM, and because of the abstraction that the JVM provides, it's very difficult to write an exploit as such with bytecode, because the second thing that it does is it always verifies the signature, even of the OS. So if you're worried about somebody giving you an operating system saying, here's an upgrade to the operating system, but he's actually hacked it in some way, even that won't work because the JVM at hardware level will verify the signatures of the operating system itself. Not that I'm aware of, no. Yes.
If you buy BlackBerry somewhere in a shop or if you order it or whatever, what is the default installation on it? Isn't that risky beginning already?
Yeah. So the question is it?
Don't have a month to ask.
Yeah. So the question, well, I mean, the idea is when you buy maybe a used BlackBerry, for example.
Yeah, or you buy a new one.
A new one. So the default configuration is fairly, I won't say too restrictive, but it's fairly restrictive. It prevents things like event injection and those really bad ones where you can reset the security timer. So by resetting the security timer, you can, you have a password lockout, the timer. You can keep resetting that if you wanted to, and the device would never lock out. So all of those are set to deny by default. So generally what I do is as soon as I get a BlackBerry, I just reinstall the OS anyway. But that's because I like the latest version that comes with it. But by default, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Now, if you're buying a used one, then you really should worry about the applications, the third-party applications on there. So if you're buying a used one, I would definitely recommend wiping it and reinstalling your own OS. Yes? The server farm, which I'm publicly going to tell you, is I haven't really tried to check the security of that, but what I hear is it's quite secure. You will get varying levels of access. I mean, you're going to have a lot of information because I mean the RIM keys to decrypt the data are all within the data center, if you will. But the server farm that handles the internet part is kind of isolated. So you're only going to see a small subset of which is the internet traffic on the server. Like if you're talking, I'm sorry. Any incident? No, I haven't. None have been publicized. Yes. 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 Exactly. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's true. Like most of what I covered here is from the perspective of an individual user, but the enterprise it has far more varying degrees of security that you can implement. And so if your administrator is somebody who likes to take pleasure in other people's pain, then he can just set do not allow installations of third-party applications at all. So you're just stuck with a default set of applications. You can't install additional applications. He can pretty much make your life hell. Yes. 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 Yeah, the average. Yeah. 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 Yeah, we had. Yeah. Yeah, we had a customer in Dubai actually that they actually went up to the CIO and said, look, we want to install things like Twitter and Facebook. Please let us install third-party applications. So that's true what you said. Yeah. That's the angle they were trying to go on.
Okay, Sheran, thanks again.
Thank you very much.